This evening we'll be hearing from Joss Sangalang, who's a longtime friend of Debbie's and mine, and she introduced us to Ukulele about a decade ago, believe it or not. And Jerome Waddle has been working with them for this presentation tonight. So without further ado, I want to turn the mic over to Jerome, and go ahead, Jerome.
Well, thank you, Skip, and hello and aloha to everyone. It's really with gratitude that I get to introduce Ukulele, Alama-Francis. And if you don't know, she's a Hawaii-born woman, and she is responsible for this new book, and it's called the Book of Composition, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And it looks like a composition book, as you can see. And there's a story about it, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But it's about personal journeys of self-discovery by 12 women, and Ukulele is the inspiration behind it. And these women share their personal journeys once they meet Ukulele. And an interesting story about how I got introduced to the book. Back in June, Joss Sangalang sent me a copy, and I read it, and I just said, this is really great. And I pointed out that, you know, this book has got pearls of wisdom, and Ukulele was enabling what C.G. Jung called our capacity for connecting or listening to the source, God or divinity, or recognizing the divine nature in ourselves. And I was really excited about it. And so subsequently, I had a Zoom meeting with Ukulele and Joss, and Ukulele asked me if we could help them promote this book. And so I did, and what we did is create a website where you can read the portions of the book, and a YouTube channel. And we'll get more into that as we go on. And we did that at the end of August. And so the book was published in January of this year, so it is brand new. And now we have a website and a YouTube channel with the presenters on it. So anyway, a warm welcome to Ukulele. And you have many friends here today. And could you tell us about the Book of Composition and what you would want the readers to know or understand about the book?
Okay, thank you, Jerome, and thank you, everyone. First of all, they say that I'm the author of the book, but really all the authors, there's many authors of this book, and I'm really not the author. I'm a small part of this. It's all of the girls that are the authors. It was just for the sake of being able to publish a book, they needed an author. So, you know, put my name down. So that's, you know, really, and it really was the work of all of these women that made this possible. I would say they say decoder, connector, interpreter, really of what was within each and every one of them, because it was through their life's journey and journeys and experiences that made this come to fruition. And also it brought light to things that they were experiencing, like a lot of them on a daily basis, and never truly saw the connection of insights with each experience that they were having on, like I say, on a daily basis. So my gratitude goes out to all of them. They were the brave souls that were willing to share these stories with others and help others, you know, that perhaps have gone through the same thing, or their loved ones going through the same thing, and just to have a different view or perspective on what they were experiencing. But I would love for all of them to chime in at any time, should there, you know, be questions or answers. And I also want to thank like Robbie, who has this background in, she's written many books, and we were coming from a place of not having made one book. So she used all of her talents to help us put this together, and it spent many hours. And you know, there's a uniqueness to this cover. When I've had this first experience of people label it as awakening and so forth, I did get a clear message saying, you know, I want you to put something together and put it in the book of composition. And it just so happened that I had been jotting down notes in my a little marble, you know, in those school composition books. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, I'm writing in one. And so that's how it's going to be. And this, another friend of mine I said, well, you know, I want it to be similar to a marble composition book, the cover of it. And then he said, well, why don't you use each of the girls' silhouettes and put it together, and we can make a cover that way. So that's why, if you really look closely, it's the silhouettes of all of the authors, of all the girls, that women that authored their chapters. That's their silhouettes on the book.
Yeah, so I see Jerome has the book cover up. So Jerome, if you would say something.
Okay, I was going to share the screen.
Okay, there you go.
So as you can see, I don't know where the screen went. Where'd it go? There's the composition books right here that Ukulele was thinking about. And so
those are the ones I wrote in.
Yeah.
Those are the exact books I wrote in.
Mm-hmm. And so she got the idea for the book is this here, which is this one here. And well, every time I touch this, but anyway, if you look real closely, you can see their silhouette pictures. You see the little silhouettes of the, in other words,
their silhouettes appear on each of their chapters. You'll see their individual silhouettes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Robbie played a big part too of tightening it up and making it, you know, he had the idea, he worked, and then Robbie came and really tightened it and made it like this. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Jerome, can you share the screen with all 12 of the authors? And you have a picture of that. And Robbie, I was hoping that you could
on the
tell us about the process.
Okay, here is a screen, and what we were talking about, the silhouettes.
Nice.
You could see that each of the chapters, and you can see Ukulele is really the inspiration for the 12 women that participated in writing each chapter of the book. And so the silhouettes, as you can see, they did a silhouette for each one. And when you look at the book of composition cover, those silhouettes are all on the cover that look like a composition book. And the book is not very long. It's only about 93 pages. But each of the participants that met Ukulele told their story, their personal story. And it's just fascinating to me about some of the quotes that come out of this. There's really significant quotes that are in each chapter. But so this is the arrangement of the book. And so anyway, that's just to give you an idea of who the authors are. And they chose to remain anonymous. They have names here. Some of them are their first names, some of them are anonymous names. But what was the idea behind keeping it anonymous, Ukulele?
Well, it's because they wanted not to identify with one person, but to share these stories, and perhaps that's one story or several stories or all of them, each the reader could relate to, and they become the silhouette. You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And you know, others, you know, the other girls, please share. I mean, please chime in at any
Yeah.
time.
Robbie?
Ravi? Yeah, I was going to say Ravi too. Yeah.
Hi everyone.
Hey.
Thank you, Skip, for inviting. This guy, little guy, just crawls on my lap. He loves doing the Zoom and the Skype because I've got my family in Australia. The waves are going under the house at the moment, and it's really loud.
Wow.
Lots of windows closed. So I'm sorry if you hear, because there's no fan or anything on. So,
Yeah.
but thank you, Skip, for bringing us here today and putting this on for the Book of Composition. Thank you so much. And also, Jerome, thank you for everything you've done and for that beautiful, the way you put it together, like the clock. I love
Yeah.
that. Ukulele in the middle and then around,
Mm,
yeah. And that was a great description.
mm,
Thank you
thank you.
so much. And of course, Jossie, thank you for also, with Skip and Jerome, putting this together today. And so I guess I think the question, I know I just heard Ukulele's sharing. Thank you so much, Ukulele. That was lovely. And was there a question for me? Because I didn't hear, I wasn't sure, was I coming on to say hi, or do you want me to share something about my journey with the book? Or
Yes, if you can share what was your purpose, or the purpose of this book, or how your chapter came about, or the inspiration for it.
Okay. Prior to meeting Ukulele, a couple of years before that, I had a desire and inspiration that arose within me. Someone had asked me if I would write a piece for a Course in Miracles book that was coming out. And I sat there at the time and I thought to myself, wow, I'd love to meet a group of people who have awakened to the truth, to their higher self. And I'd love to share a book together, write a book together. That would be wonderful. So fast forward a couple of years now, I meet Ukulele and Joss. They came into our Way of Mastery group at Kaneohe on Oahu here. And when I met them, it wasn't that long after, that first day, Ukulele actually channeled for us in the Way of Mastery group. We were talking to Ukulele, and then all of a sudden, she went MIA, as we say, missing in action. She was gone, and then all of a sudden, it was like, and many of us had, or probably everyone in that group, I would say, had experiences with channeled messages as such. Abraham Hicks was a big one that many of us knew in the group. So we were very familiar with that, so we weren't really surprised, many of us, when it actually happened. So that day, we knew, I think many of us knew, that was a changing time for us, because we had followed many of these channel teachings, but we hadn't had one that just kind of walked in the door like that. And I think that just sat that out of the blue. I mean, she was invited through CJ in our group, but it was kind of like she kind of came in, and then that happened, and it felt in that moment of her channeling, it did feel kind of explosive. It felt very, very fast and very quick, and it felt almost like when Abraham does come through Esther, for those that know the Abraham teachings. And it wasn't long after that, a couple of sessions, Ukulele was coming back to our Way of Mastery group each week. And a couple of times, into a couple of sessions, they told us, it wasn't far into, where they said that there was a book that was coming. And at first I didn't kind of piece that together. It wasn't until it started really unfolding about maybe 6 months later, I think it was, is when the drawing was kind of coming together, that there was an urge coming to write our chapters and put this book together. And so there it unfolded, and that's when I started realizing, this is something that vision I saw, that feeling I had, and it just, really unfolded from there. And the book, it did take a number of years to come together. It was, I think, about 5 years, but they did tell us very early on in those that early time of meeting Ku'ulei. I say they, God, source, divine, whatever we'd like to call it, but our one higher self, told us then that it would be about 5 years for it to come about, for it to all come together. And so it does feel like that it was something that, a soul contract, a joint, a sisterly soul contract, I guess, that we came together to bring our messages, these messages that were, as Ku'ulei shared, which was so beautiful, that it was our journeys that we were experiences that we were going through, and we were getting help, which was dropping us deeper. We were all kind of in that wave mastery group. We were all pretty deep in our journey. We were really, there was a lot of soul searchers, really on that journey. When Ku'ulei came, it kind of pushed us deeper into that journey and helped us to really go where we were really wanting to go. We really wanted to taste more of the divine, I feel, than we had before, and that's what that did for us. And so when those chapters came together, and the book came together, then it was like looking back and seeing, hey, this felt like it was a soul contract, and we felt so, these women that came together from different parts of the world, some of us, it felt like that we came together, and then what's happened with the book now coming forward as a whole, as these 12 chapters, it does feel like that it's like there's one of us. There's kind of one of us that have written this book, in a sense. It's kind of how there's a blending between us and what we've gone through. We've all gone through some really upside down, spiraling, crazy journeys along the way, and it's not always been easy. And
Robbie.
So brought us together. Yes.
Robbie, can you share with the group one of your aha moments?
One of them?
Yeah. What comes to mind is the ego is my friend.
Okay.
And your feelings of the ego prior to that.
Okay. When I met Ku'ulei, so now going back to when she first came into the Wave Mastery group, for those first couple of weeks, the feeling was kind of like, there was information that was coming through Ku'ulei that aligned with the Wave Mastery, aligned with other teachings, and I felt had heard them before. And then a few sessions into it, a few weeks into when Ku'ulei was joining our Way of Mastery, she said, you weren't actually channeling in that moment. Ku'ulei was very present, and Ku'ulei said, the ego is my friend. And that's when everything changed for me, because prior to that I was like, well, okay, I've heard this, and I get this. But at that point, that was something I'd not heard before, and it really got my attention. And it was something that I really felt drawn to. I knew in that moment that she really had gotten my attention and that I wanted to know more. And so then, I was eager and open and so willing to hear as much as possible. And from that moment, there was many teachings that came through, teaching us to bless the ego, to recognize the ego was helpful on our journey to find love. It was really kind of hand in hand a friend with love that I had not recognized before, helping us find our way home. And then we also learned from that, and through a time that Ku'ulei went through with cancer a number of years ago, I remember being guided one day. I was driving, I was being guided by Spirit. Text your sisters and everyone send love to the cancer. And that changed everything. We all did. We all know. We all saw major shifts. I'm not saying that this was the sole thing for Ku'ulei had some healing and following that. And you know, I feel like it did play a part, it played a role, and it just felt so amazing. And so learning from there that the ego, the cancer, the pain, the judgments, everything serves its purpose along the way. And if we can look at what's coming up, some of these painful experiences that are coming up, and recognize that they really truly are pointing us back to love, and that they really are in alignment with love, and working with love just to bring us to that place. And I feel like that all of that now today, this is really the sole thing that I've learned through the Ukulele through these teachings that have poured through Ukulele over the years, is that everything is love. There is nothing that is not love. There's nothing that doesn't arise from love. There's nothing that doesn't deserve love. And for me, that's really changed everything. And so it's a blessing. So I'm so thankful. Thank you, Ku'u, for being that open.
Oh no, it's
thank you, everyone.
it's everyone. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is everyone.
Yeah. And to all the girls, all the sisters that have, like Ku'u said, that have stepped out of comfort zones, and accepted this beautiful journey to go deeper, to learn more, and experience the experience, so we can share the experience and help others. And it does feel like that it truly is one of us now in the book. It does. It feels like it's come together to that point now where there's,
You know, that's exactly, you know, one of my earliest lessons in this that I heard was, I always like putting things in its proper box or proper place, saying that, okay, this is good, so it goes in the good box. This is bad, that goes in the bad box. This is right, this is wrong, this is happy, this is sad. So I have everything labeled. All my experiences are labeled. And it said to me, no, he said, take everything out of its boxes, throw it all on the floor and just mumble and jumble and mix it all up. No labels, and pick one and just experience it without labeling, because really that's all it is. They are just experiences for me to experience and get from it, learn from it, get insight from it. Because what you're going to do then is, from that experience, there will be someone that will come on in your path, whether it's a close relationship or whether it's a distant relationship. But someone's going to come through that path and going to have a similar situation, and you're going to be able to share what you experienced from it. Share that with them, and then let them make a choice and pick whatever choice they want, even if it would not be a choice that you would pick, especially after having that experience. But let them, and let them feel free to come back to you and share with you what they experienced. And don't judge them for what choice they made, and share with them again, it was just an experience. You may choose that choice if it comes upon you again to choose. You may not, but don't condemn yourself. Just praise yourself for that choice that you made. And you know what, being brought up Catholic, it really, I really let go of a lot of guilt for choices I made when I realized they were just experience, and that's all. And I wasn't going to be judged, and I wasn't committing a mortal sin, and I wasn't going to go to hell, because that's how I was brought up. And it was so free. And that was one of the biggest experience or lessons that I got from my channeling. And with this book, I have to say, a lot of times, like Robbie shared, I went MIA, I went missing. A lot of times I channel, and I don't remember, maybe a minute later, I wouldn't remember anything that transpired. And I remember asking my guide, or whoever it is that I would communicate with, and then the response I got was, well, it's really private. It's between the receiver and the voice that comes from within, from wherever, and it's between the two, and it's private. And if that receiver would like to share it with you, then that's fine. But if you really want to know and hear and be in it, it's fine too. I can make that. But you'd be so cluttered with all that comes through. And I thought, yeah, that's true. I got enough of my stuff that I'm dealing with. So, and that's why when this book came together, I was just amazed. I was like, wow, that makes me look really smart, like I had the answer for everything. But it wasn't me. Like I said, I was able to have this experience of being able to decode that they say, or be that mediation or medium for messages. But yes, I was just amazed at what my sisters experienced after reading their chapters. Just amazing. So really, I know more. I don't know more than anyone else. I'm not any better than anybody else. I don't have more than anybody else. I'm just like each and every one of you. So, and then another one was Karen. There's Karen. How she shared, we hear these messages quite often, like, I'm in you, you're in me, we're all part of one family. My ancestors lived through me and I lived through them, and so forth and so on. But it was when I read Karen's chapter and how this really came to life for her when she attended her father's celebration of life after he passed. Do you want to share that, Karen?
Yeah,
That was a beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Well, first of all, I have to say thank you to Skip, to Jerome, to Joss, Ukulele, Robbie, for making this book come alive. And Jerome, I love this circle of women that you have, because when I first came to Way of Mastery, which is where I met Ku'u, I felt like I joined this circle. We were all holding hands and we were all meant to be together the very first day I got there. So fast forward, a few years, we all write our chapter. And at the time I wrote my chapter, my father had just passed away. And it was, we went on a family vacation with Grandpa, and then 3 months later, he was gone. So it was unexpected, but during this time, I was able to kind of take all of the inspiration, the intuition, the guidance, especially, through Ukulele, and make sense of it. And during this time, when I was at this celebration of life for my father, I had this profound experience of seeing all my ancestors, past relatives, as far as they could go, to the present, to my children, my grandchildren, and beyond. And I could see my dad's beautiful spirit in this circle. Once again, another circle. It was not linear. It was like this circle. And I knew that his life was living so beyond just his physical presence. And I was able to just see you know, all of my family there and his spirit in a way to where all, you know, little like the human disagreements or this or that just never even came about, because that was so insignificant compared to who he was on earth and what he left behind. So that was my chapter. With the help of Ku'u, we really, I told my story. I didn't feel really confident writing, like just sitting down and writing, because I kept saying, I'm not a writer. And so sitting with Ku'u and Robbie, I told my story verbally, and they wrote it down for me. And when I heard it myself, there was just another like spiritual awakening for me. So it was a really profound experience. I'm really grateful to everyone for that help.
That's terrific. All of us need something like that from time to time, that's for sure.
Skip, do you have any questions? I mean, any questions for anyone or?
So far, no. I think it's very interesting, Ku, what you have done. I certainly agree that when you lose someone, that they, you know, maybe their physical presence isn't there, but their spirit is certainly with you and continues on. And so, you know, after my parents and my brother died, I never felt any different from what I felt when they were alive, except that I couldn't talk to them directly anymore, but I still can talk to them. And we were having a conversation in our advanced group the other day about how we had gone back and rehabilitated some of our ancestors who we had a bad attitude about at one point, but we went back and thought about how their lives had been experienced by them based on the events of the 20th century, and so it makes you think about their lives in a much different way. And so in a sense there you can rehabilitate a person's spirit that way, and I've certainly done that myself. But this is your session, Kusu. You go ahead.
Oh no, it's really great. I mean, and I love it. You know, any of the listeners to come in and chime in. But you brought up a memory of mine too when this happened to me. My husband has passed away, and it was a rough passing. He had cancer, but our relationship was strained, and that's really not, I don't feel that most people want, especially at the end of someone's life and when you're so close. And I know I struggled with it. I really struggled it. We really, he had a difficult time speaking, especially towards the end, speaking of passing, of crossing and so forth. And we just weren't, I just felt sad that I wasn't able to be as open as I wanted to with him. So he had passed, and I remember asking why does it have to be this way? Why had it had so rough? We have so many, I just felt there was so much unsaid things. And I got a response. I'm just so fortunate. I always get responses right away, but it said clearly to me, do you know, your husband didn't buy you a ticket on an airplane. Your husband bought you a ticket on a rocket ship to heaven. And it's because he was willing to go through what he went through for you. Really, it was all for you. He was willing to give up this lifetime so you could soar and you could have this, because he knew the potential in you. You socialized more, you were more outspoken than he. So why not be you, give it to you? So he did what he did so that I would reach out to my higher self, to my higher power, to God, or whoever, and reach out and really hear them and have this trajectory and then move on. And he said, you know, he knew that if he were still here in body, it would hold you back from doing what you do. So he was willing to exit for now so that you can move on and do it. And all of this happened, all of this was created after he passed. I really wouldn't have done it if he were still here with me. So, I mean, I was just like, from being angry and sad, it was like, at him, it was like, oh my God, I couldn't be grateful enough for what he, you know, what happened. There was a reason and a purpose and for everything.
Yeah. So he still is with you.
Oh, most
Ukulele,
definitely.
and very definitely. And
Yes.
him within you is still talking to you.
Yes.
We have a comment from Raquel, but Deb, did you have something you wanted to say?
Just
And
briefly.
hi, Deb. Yes.
Hi, Koo.
Yes.
Sending a big hug. I wanted to thank you all, everyone who's on here who is part of the book, and just give two quick personal examples of the book's impact on me. And one was reading all of the stories one after the other. It was just this wonderful experience and realization that absolutely everything is on the path, that all of these different women coming through such different life experiences and having such different realizations, and yet they all were unified at some very fundamental levels as well. It was just wonderful to have all in one place, because it's easy to go around your life day in, day out going, oh yeah, we're all one, we're all one. And to somehow dismiss your own experience in the process of doing that. And it ended up being very validating, because you just all of a sudden looking around realize, well, that person has a story too. It's not in the book, but they have one, and that person has one too. And just started thinking of everybody as having their own stories and their own realizations and their own path, and that absolutely everything is on it. So that was one thing, just having that feeling of it being this smorgasbord of realization. And the second thing was, and I think, Robbie, this goes back to you and your section, if I recall. I was, of course, looking for, little glimmers of things that might help me personally too. And there was a reference to Julia Cameron's course and book of the Artist's Way. And because of reading this, I was intrigued and picked it up for the first time, instantly ordered it on Amazon and started taking the 12-week course, and actually, to my amazement, completed it. And it was wonderful. And so I really feel like I have the book and all of the authors, but I'm pretty sure it was especially you, Robbie, to thank. So thank you very much. It really helped me with my artistic development.
Thank you, Deborah. I love everything you said there. It was so beautiful. I was feeling like, yes. I love what you shared about others. You recognize others and their experiences because of the book. So you weren't kind of like put the book down and then just see our experiences. You went out in life and you went, there, she's got the story, he's got a story. Mm-hmm. And I love that, because that to me feels like that's what the book is really about, recognizing the experiences that everyone has. And that's why I feel like silhouettes too are wonderful. There's no like looking at one person. So I love what you shared. As far as the Artist's Way, that's not in my chapter. Oh. That's in another chapter, I think. Sorry, but yeah.
I think it's Marianne.
It's Marianne. Yeah, I was wondering. Okay. I'm gonna pass it back, but thank you so much, Deborah. I love that. Thank you for your sharing.
I just want to emphasize that when Debbie was talking and I pulled my earphones off, it wasn't because I didn't want to listen to her, but because she's just behind me here. And Debbie is my wife, and so I was hearing everything twice, and so I had to stop listening on the earphones. But anyway.
And of course, he always listens to me very carefully.
Absolutely. Okay, we have a question from Brazil here. This is Raquel Fonseca asks, and this is directed to Ku'u'lei. How can we know we are channeling something? Or better, Ku'u'lei said about how she stopped labeling her experiences and stopped the judgment. How can I start doing that, quote unquote? That's what she asked.
You know, at first it's tough because somehow my helper on the other side would point it out to me. I didn't think I was judging, but it would say, look at it, that's judgment. Just look at it for what it is. So it's really nice because as a group, we used to kind of help each other recognize when we had judgment. You know, just saying, oh God, there were really simple examples and now I can't think of it. But yes, you know, colors and can you folks come up with examples? How we helped each other? Oh. But anyway, so, and then how initially, I think I was a hard coconut to crack, you know, so my helper from the other side literally had to cut me out of conversations. And the voice would come through me for channeling. But then as time went on, I just felt I had this feeling. What I would do is I would have this I felt like there was pressure on the top of my head, pressure, and then my eyelids would get heavy. And that's kind of the signal I would get that, okay, I'm going to go into this channeling mode. So I would really step aside, and in the beginning days, King English version would come out of me. I would have the thous and the those and the old English, and I think that was because of how when I would go to church, Catholic masses, it would be in that language and vocabulary. But as I channeled, as it happened to me more and more, then it got to be more and more natural for me, and my voice and my word, the way I spoke. And then I became more and more present in the conversation. But like I said, I would be present before, I would be present in conversation, but after it ended, about a minute or so after, I don't remember. So, but he also said to me, you channel every day, whether you feel this or not. We all channel. We all, because he said, think of it just as though Karen's experience, where you see that everyone lives through us. We have our parents' personalities or traits and so forth. They live through us. And so we're channelers. We're channelers of our ancestors. We're channelers of, you know, our past lives. We're of those who influence us. So we just have to be more aware of the words that come out, you know, that comes out of us.
we've all been conned out of the divine life in a way by modernity, and it definitely exists. And Deb and I have been looking at this book recently called
Radiance. So
the
Ultra,
Radiant
yeah.
Sutras, the Radiant Sutras, and it's by a man named Lauren Roche. It's a wonderful book. It's only about 14 pages, $14, I think, the last time I checked. But it's all about the language of love, and I want to point out to you what he says about the divine. But in the preface, in the prelude to this book, which is a translation of the Vijaya Bhareva from India, Deb said, "These are the sutras that the Tibetan Buddhist Lamas always promise to teach you, but never do." and so I just read one paragraph from the prelude, and then I'll just read one short piece here. It's called A Language of Love, and it says, "The Bhareva Tantra is set as a conversation between the goddess, who is the creative power of the universe, and the god, who is that consciousness that permeates everywhere. For short, they call each other Devi and Bhareva, or Shakti and Shiva. They are lovers and inseparable partners, and one of their favorite places of dwelling is in the human heart." And so part of what we've been talking about is the divine realm and the other side, which is something we're also talking about in conjunction with the Bhagavad Gita that I've been reading lately, but also with the Tarot, where there are certain aspects of life that are undoubtedly factual, but we can't touch them. And so I want to give you this very short verse that Lauren Roche wrote. He says, "Elaborate rituals and garish images may be useful in meditation when your mind is whirling with thoughts of sex, money, and power, wandering like an elephant in heat. Go ahead and use these tools, yet know, beating drums and blaring trumpets cannot summon the one who is already present. I am not a collection of incantations known only to experts. I am not a ladder to be climbed, a sequence of piercing energy centers in your body. I am not to be found at the end of a long road. I am right here." That's all you need to know.
Amen.
But anyway, that's the book. When I got this book, I was so thrilled with it. I started to try to talk to Deb about it and tell her, I really take a look at this book, and she wouldn't do it. She was in the middle of something else. So I said, fine. So I went on Amazon and I ordered a copy for her, gift wrapped, and had it sent to her. And I said on the note, "You're going to need your own copy." And so,
Right.
so after she got it, she said, "Oh, these are the tantras that the Tibetan Buddhist monks always promise to teach you, but never do."
But it made your way. It made its way.
Yeah, I think it's very important that, and what you're saying is we need to listen. And what Skip was saying, we get dragged away from listening, and those messages are always there, and they're coming. And if you don't listen to them, sometimes you get in trouble, but other times it'll come through, and it is what Skip says. It's about love. It's the bottom line when you get down to it. So that's what it's about, and that's what all poetry is about. It's what artistry is about, it's all about that. So.
Jerome, you just made me remember what else resonated for me with the book. While I was reading it, I recalled another book called The Surrender Experiment, which probably a lot of you here, I see heads nodding, have read. And the reason, of course, for those of you who have read it, that I thought of it when reading the Book of Composition, was it was so clear that all of the women who wrote in the Book of Composition had surrendered. They had been willing to open up and accept these experiences and work with them deeply. It's quite amazing to do that in one's life, and very amazing as it was described in the surrender experiment, to try the experiment of saying yes to absolutely everything that happens in your life, not turning anything down. And I just had that feeling in this book that the women who were writing it were saying, yes, whatever it is, I accept it, I appreciate it, I learned from it, I'm going to grow from it. And that's a pretty amazing thing.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, and instead of running from it, you face it head on, is what the bottom line is. So that's beautiful. Thanks, Deb.
Yeah, I have this experience, a revelation, like when Kool-Aid talked about the judgment and putting things in boxes. And when I was going through this, my dad's transition, I have 5 siblings and my mom. And so all of us were there. And I caught myself judging, like my sister was so controlling and my mom was in denial, and my other sister I caught myself. And what I realized was each person, when I let go of the judgment, I could see behind all these actions that was all out of love. Everybody was just doing, they were having a loving experience, and it came out as this or that, but I was judging them. And when I let go of the judgment, it was all pure love. So that was one of the inspirations that I got from one of Kool-Aid's messages.
Yes, it's, I got to see people differently and choices differently too, when I also learned that everyone is just perfect. They're exactly where they need to be in their journey and their existence and their growth. So, I mean, it kept expanding my understanding of it, and when it got to things like the Holocaust and Hitler, and things that I just like, no way could I even let that into my space, and yet I could. My door opened, and it was like, wow, he was just where he was supposed to be for his journey. And who knows that, I was at one time in my lifetimes, or in thought or whatever. But, I now I can put myself in whoever's shoes. And as before, there's no way I would let them into my space. So, and it just, wow, it's such a freeing feeling and experience.
I just want to, I just wanted to, also agree with you on that. It's such a freeing experience to, understand about good, bad, heaven, and hell, creation and destruction. All that is duality, and come to realize through the teachings, through your channeling, that everything is meant for balance. And as Jung would say, God includes below and above. So, we embrace both. It's like what Debbie said, it's both sides of one coin. And that's where the judgment comes, where we sometimes place too much judgment on what is good and what is bad. But then we come to realize that all are good, all are fine. It's just part of life. It's part of experience. And that's what Jung talks about too. It's about, it's one of fundamental Jungian experiences, to experience the experience. And he once said, you create the truth by living it. This knowledge of the heart is in no book. You attain this knowledge only by living your own life fully, and also live what you never have lived. So it's all about finding the insight through experiences and trusting that through your experiences, you will learn something.
There was an experience that we all experienced that what you're talking about kind of brought this to mind. It happened when we used to get together regularly. The tsunami in Japan happened, and all those lives were lost, including young ones, right? Newborn babies and so forth. And so we were in the circle, and everyone was we felt that. It's like, oh, we felt pain. And then a question was posed in the circle: why would he let this happen? Why would the Creator let this happen to these young people that haven't even lived their lives yet? And it said, my daughters, yes, but beautiful things came about from this. He says, those babies brought so much love to this world, because look at you're all looking at these young babies or these young children that hadn't lived their lives, but look what they contributed more than some that live a whole lifetime here. They contributed genuine, pure love, because that's what people feel when they think of them. Just pure, they just beamed pure love. And this disaster, do you know what this disaster did? It brought mankind together. Not just there in that city or place that it took place. He said it brought people together around the globe. I heard one voice of prayer for all. The world joined hands. And it was a beautiful voice that I heard that came to the heavens. And people that were on the subways that wouldn't even look at one another when they were touching each other. They wouldn't look at one another and greet one another. But look what they're doing and look what they did. This happened. Pillars, cars, just buildings were upon their brother. And they worked together, they came together, voice as one, hand in hand, and they worked together to lift those pillars off of their brothers that laid beneath them when they couldn't even acknowledge one another on the subway. This is the beauty that came out of that. This is the togetherness. He said, so see what you do not see. This is the beauty, and this is what I heard. Now can you hear your brethren? And can you continue with this joining of force to bring us together instead of tear us apart?
Right, and what you're talking about here is really co-creation, which is something that Becca Tarnas talked with us about a few weeks ago. So I put the link to her talk in the chat for both YouTube and Zoom so that you can find that. But she was definitely talking about the idea that the invisible, the divine realm, is not a one-way street. We co-create reality, basically, and that's basically what you're talking about here. I think the same sort of thing. So I'd recommend Becca's talk from a few weeks ago.
Awesome. Thank you.
Also, another thing that the book brings out, actually it's several things that the book brings out that just corresponds with your Jungian, sessions, Skip, or just some really basics, but it doesn't, put too much elaboration, because what the book focuses on is on the experience and what you get out of the experience. But like for me, I'm in chapter 11. What my lesson that I went through and learned was to listen with my heart for who is the voice of God. Well, the voice of God, my epiphany was my own intuition, my inner voice, my inner self. And that was actually the hardest coconut to crack, because I had, before, joining the group, I had more of an atheistic bent. Even though I was born Catholic, my life journey went way skewed to the other side. And being in the science field, it went even more in the rationalistic viewpoint. And then it was brought back when in my chapter, I don't have to talk about my total chapter, but basically it's about my heart being broken and leaving, a 15-year marriage. But in that process, my take-home lesson was learning to forgive and to love beyond the obvious, because I was in that duality state, oh, he was bad and I'm good. And so come to realize that what I see as bad is something I had experienced too, probably in maybe a previous lifetime or whatever. But it's I'm going through a lesson of going through the process of being non-judgmental, and it was a really tough process. It's difficult to explain because you have to go through that process. And the other big lesson that I learned was I am source, I am God, in the sense that God is not what I used to believe when I was a Catholic. So that old belief was kind of like turned over, and I had to basically come to a new realization of truly who I am.
Could you say what you just said about your old belief, Joss, because it got attenuated on this end? If you could re-say it.
The old belief of the God. I grew up Catholic, so of an image of, and even statues of, a man-like form. But now it's like beyond this image. It's everything. It's the smell of a rose. It's the cup of coffee or drink that I drink, or it's everything. It's everything. And that's what I've come to, realize. So anyone want to comment on that? Karen? CJ, I haven't heard from you, CJ. Oh, you, okay.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Jordan.
I put it in the chat, but it very much sounds like a concept I work with called the kintsukuroi of self, the Japanese art of repairing a vase with golden lacquer, that it is more valuable for having been broken, and that have your inner golden splendor basically welling up to rise up and flow up to fill those tectonic fault lines where huge plates of your life has shifted. And that to me is a wonderful celebration of the experience rather than creating scars which limit your movement.
I think CJ, if you chime in, you gave a lecture on that. It was it's a wabi-sabi, right? Are you familiar with that, Jordan?
Oh, definitely.
Wabi-sabi.
Over here, you chime in. Hi, Joss. Thank you it's just wonderful to be here. Thank you, Skip. Ku'ule. I just got back from diving in the ocean. So being underwater and enjoying swimming with the honus, the turtles, and the beauty of this planet. But yes, it's about being broken wide open. And I gave a talk on that a couple weeks ago, but Ku'u really, I asked for awakening and the fast track, and we realized sometimes it's a lot of times of hardship and tribulation as we go through it. And so my part of the book of composition was experiencing heartbreak. I'd never experienced heartbreak before, and then also being true to yourself and realizing that there's a part of myself I never experienced, which was being gay. And Ku'u, God through Ku'ule was just, amazing. I remember just so many times. The one big thing is we are God. God is in us. And I said to God, I said to Ku'u, I said, why, I gave my life to you. I gave my life to you. Why is this happening? And God said, if you honor me, then you're not honoring me because you're not honoring yourself. And I wasn't honoring myself. I was allowing others to control me or to, I wasn't honoring myself. And it was amazing when it was like, if you want to honor God, honor yourself. You are God. I am you. You are me. We are one. And that, and the other thing, always getting about experiencing the experience. If we experience heartbreak, if we experience cancer, whatever it is we experience in life, we're there because there will be someone who will come before us that has experienced the same thing, and we will have compassion and understand. And so Ku'ule just helped all of us on our paths, all of the things we went through, and it was a true voice of unconditional love. I mean, just the beauty of unconditional love. So I'm eternally grateful to Ku'ule and getting to be a part of this journey.
Not me. I thank just for the voice. I thank for the voice, but it was the God in you that answered the question for you. Really, you all answered your own question. I just decoded the answers.
But it makes it so much easier to listen to God through Ukulele than us, God through ourselves. So,
Well,
yeah.
Thank you for being the blessing.
I think all of us in the West have got a lot of deprogramming to do, let's say, because divinity was taught, certainly in the West, for 2,000 years in a certain way, and that way doesn't speak to us anymore in many ways, and it has made us think that there is no divine realm, and that's not true. And one of the issues that I get on about often is that, first of all, we have to understand what beauty is and what things we love are. So if you look at everything in your room that you have, all of that was acquired one way or another because you thought it was beautiful. Because if you didn't think it was beautiful, it probably ought to be in the dumpster in the morning. Okay. And so at some point in your life, no matter what it is, even if it's your junk drawer in your desk, at some point the things that are there were things that you thought were beautiful. But we've also been persuaded that logos and rationality is the right way to be. But that's not true at all, because everything in your room that's a thing, whether it's the computer you're looking at right now, or a book, or any other object, we need logos to create that. It needs to be perfect. In other words, you wouldn't buy a defective glass like this glass here. You wouldn't buy a defective glass. You wouldn't buy a defective automobile. All of it has to be perfect. So we need logos for that. But none of it is alive. Not a single thing. It's all dead. The only thing that is alive is living beings. Even a Bible is just a black doorstop unless somebody puts life into it. And so we need to rethink the way we think about what is beautiful, what is rationality and logos, and what is eros. But our life, everything about our life is on the eros side, everything. So just leave it for that. Go, Jordan.
I'd like to step back to the what you brought up, Joss, but in a bigger picture, between connections versus scars. Just the structure of this book, with each woman placed on the hour, but at the same time, immediately a zodiac, an astrological chart came to mind, and that would mean they would have a foot on both sides in either house. So they're sitting on the cusps, and then each house in between is their connection. And that puts all 12 in just such a strong connection. And Ukulele at the center, then you get where's the orbit. And so I just wanted to say, just the way it was put together with the clock, that seemed to me it may be arbitrary, I may be reading that in, but the overlay of the clock and the astrological chart seemed to be wonderful in terms of the way the structure of the book was put together.
I think Jerome did that. I don't know, just happened to do that, but really there was no intentional purpose when he did it. It just seemed like a more interesting way of placing for the chapters. But Jordan, you know, it was such a profound experience to go through. You know what it felt like? I felt like when I was going through it, I felt like I hit the jackpot. You know, some people would feel like and wish they would, you know, win the jackpot, $1 million, $1 trillion, and so forth. When I was able to communicate with my higher self through, you know, the abilities that Ukulele had as a decoder, I felt this was priceless. This was absolutely priceless. Because just to think, if I had gone through life with being unaware and just bumbling through life and well, I guess it would be okay making mistakes, but at least now I have this awareness of, you know, what I'm going through and the choices that I make in life. It's a little bit more deliberate, and I put a lot of thought, and I'm wanting to try to be in line with my higher self whenever I make any kind of choices, whether I'm talking to the person in the grocery store or, you know, making the decision of where I'm going to live or when I'm going to eat. It's like, what does my higher self is asking? And what does my higher self want to better myself? So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. I also did another. So we put a heart and with all the women and ku'ule. And also, ku'ule mentions about us forming a layer of furls, or a lay of furls, or a string of furls. And that's the connection. And perhaps ku'ule, you can talk about the idea of the lay of furls.
Thank you. Yes, it has a lot of meaning for me because my full name is Ku'ule Momi, which means my lay of pearls. And how a pearl starts off with, as we know, in its shell, and it starts with the irritant, and many times it's a grain of sand, and then it develops into this beautiful pearl. But, you know, one pearl on its own cannot create a lay. But it was with my sisters that I were able to create a lay of pearls, this beautiful lay of pearls. And now we here kind of closed it off, but it really should be an open lay because we can keep adding to it and adding to it. And, you know, this lay can, you know, cover the entire earth, the globe. But this is what we start off with, and then it represents each of us and each of our experiences in the book. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's great. That's great. What I thought I'd do is just to give you an idea of what we've been working on. And we have developed a YouTube channel called The Heart of Intelligence. And you can see that we've put all of the chapters of each of the authors, and you'll notice there's a lot of pictures. So each of the authors read their chapter into this YouTube chapter. So you actually hear their voices, most of them. And if you'll notice that we've included some beautiful pictures of Hawaii, which, you know, Karen furnished us to do this with. She's a professional photographer, and they're just gorgeous pictures. And then Marianne is an artist, and she painted some of the flower pictures that come through there. But I would encourage you, and Skip, I gave him the links to put on the description in the chat of how to get to this particular channel, and he'll publish those. So that's what we call the YouTube channel. And so each, you've got the 12 chapters plus the inspiration and invitation by Ku'ule, and then interview we did with Ku'ule. Joss and I did an interview with Ku'ule that's on the YouTube channel. So I encourage you to, if you want to hear each story by the author themselves as they go through it, and they're still in silhouette, so you're not going to see their faces. So anyways, so that's the story on that. And we also developed a website called the Book of Composition website, and there's a channel to that. And on this website, you can read the different chapters here. You can share your story. So there's a link to an email if you want to share your story. You can purchase the book by going, it'll take you right to Amazon and let you purchase the book or the Kindle version. And then there's some links. But the idea behind the website is you'll see that there's a welcoming invitation. That's an embedded video. But then you see each, the inspiration chapter, there's a saying. The common saying is that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And then chapter 1 is the Book of Dory. And she says, bless the light, be the light, honor the light of thyself in all its glory. So what you can do for each chapter, as I go through here, you can click here if you want to read the chapter, or you could click here to go to the YouTube, and it'll take you back to the YouTube channel I just showed you. But if you want to read the chapter, you just click here, and it'll bring up the Book of Lee, for instance, and then this is just a facsimile of the book, and you can read the whole chapter for that particular, so you'll be able to read that. And so I'll go down to the bottom, and then so you can read each chapter or go to the YouTube video. So, and then we've got Marianne and You Are the Heart of Me, each and every one of you. So all these sayings from Source are just wonderful. The heart represents love. Love trumps all. This is Aiko. Here's Karen that she was talking about. When we know, we don't know. When we don't know, we know. I like that one. And how you feel, Book of Georgia, and Georgia was on here. Cynthia, unconditional love, living in the moment, love and forgiveness. So I encourage you to either go to the website. You have some choices here. So you can go to the website, or you can go to the YouTube channel, or you can just go to the website and get to the YouTube channel as you read each chapter. And then here's Joss's book, Give a Piece of Thy Peace, Love, Light One Candle at a Time. And then Ravi, who was a major contributor to writing the book. And then the last page, 91, kind of sums it up. And if Kool-Aid can see that, I would like for her to read that, because she reads it so well.
Well, thank you. I am the living, breathing God in you. I am you, and I guide you from within. And when you come to know that realization, then you can share me with others as you.
Yeah, great. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. So, anyway.
Okay, well, if there are any other further questions, this might be a good time to close. And Jerome, you have a last video for closing too, correct?
Yeah, it's just something to sit back and relax with for just a couple of seconds. I won't keep you that long, but and you may not be able to hear it, but anyway, this is.
Okay.
I don't know if I've got sound on or not, but this is the beautiful Hawaii and the waves. It's just a nice meditation, so we can close with that.
Any last thing you want to say, Koo, before we close?
Yes, mahalo, Skip and Deb, for allowing us, space on your time, and to all your listeners and viewers. A big aloha and mahalo from us here in Hawaii. We're so grateful to hear from each of you, and sisters will pop in now that we have your link, Skip. It's so interesting in meeting all of you. That would be wonderful. But thank you, and that's mahalo in Hawaiian. And we hope that you can all visit us one day, because that beach is right down the road from where Joss is and I live. And it looks just like that.
I'm ready.
I'm already there.
A big kiss, Deb.
To you too.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. And
thank you, Skip.
Our next session will be our next scheduled session. Other than my early Sunday morning session, is a week from tomorrow at 3 p.m. We're going to have Alyssa Markoff talk about Sophia and the reemergence of Sophia, and especially the fact that Sophia never went away in the Eastern Church. So she's going to be talking about the various cathedrals that are dedicated to Sophia, the Sacred Feminine, in the Orthodox churches of Russia and the Balkans, and Turkey, of course, where there's the Hagia Sophia, which is one of the oldest cathedrals in the world and was built in 550 AD. So anyway, that'll be a very interesting event. Deb, you need to mute just a minute. Okay. Reason we're hearing me because Deb had.
I'm muted.
I muted you. So anyway,
Yeah.
I've put the link to receive our notices, our reminders. So if you want to hear about Sophia, all of our events are free of charge. So feel free to join us. And Raquel, thank you for coming on to the panel. Nice to see you.
Great. Nice to see everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. So nice to see you, Martha. So we've got a contingent from Brazil now, not only one.
Show a little bit of Hawaii of the water for you guys.
Oh, thank you,
Sorry
Robbie.
for the window.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there it is.
There
It's-
you are.
Ah, Pacific.
It's coming under her house, she said, too, if I recall.
Yeah. It's high tide right now.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So peace, everyone.
Peace.
There now. Thanks.
Bye, all.